Yeah, we're just going to talk a little bit about doing some pole walking and pole bounding for tomorrow. The first thing is to select your pole. Now, most of you just have one pair of poles, so it doesn't really matter. You're going to take the poles you have. But as you can see here, this is a skate pole, and this is a classic pole that would be about right for me. Now, if I had a choice, and I'm going to do pole bounding or pole walking, I would pick a little bit shorter pole that would fit me for classic. If I didn't have a choice, I would just make do with the longer skate poles. So maybe it could be at home. You might have your parents might have an old pair of somewhat shorter cross-country ski poles around. Sometimes you can use a pair of downhill ski poles that are a little bit shorter. But most of you will just be going with your skate poles, and that's just fine. They're just a little bit longer for what we're doing. So I will empathize with you and use my skate poles for the demonstration here. One thing to consider, even though it's probably be cool enough to wear gloves, but if it was a little bit warmer and you didn't wear gloves, you're still probably going to want to wear a pair of gloves. You can kind of get blisters and stuff on your hands if you don't do it. So I'm going to put on my ski glove. And then many of you learned how to put on your ski pole, the strap on your ski pole. And I will do that as well. So I've got my ski strap on my hand just like that. And that's really important because it keeps your hand on the pole. Another tip here is there's a small adjusting portion right here, and you can pull that out. You can usually pull that out and pull it so that the notch right here where your thumb and your finger divide off, you want to have that notch kind of snug up against the pole. So you might have to tighten your strap a little bit to get that snug up there. But once you have your glove on, your hand in the strap, and it's comfortably snug on the pole, you're ready to go. Okay, just two quick pointers on polling technique that are relevant for this. And one thing to think about, I don't want to pull too hard because I don't want to put holes in our kitchen floor here. But when you have your poles up and they're ready to pull down, whether you're walking or whether you're skiing, it's good to think about, instead of having the poles out like this, having the poles about like this. And when the pole is hanging there, it's parallel to your forearm. Instead of being out like this, it's kind of hanging there and it's parallel to your forearm. That means your wrist bends just a little bit at the top here so that it's kind of hanging down. Another important thing, and this is why we have the strap on here comfortably snug, is that when you let go of that pole, if the pole is snug on your hand and you let go, it kind of hangs in the air, and then when you pull your arm back, it pops right back into your hand. So you can let that pole go, the pole kind of hangs there, pull it up, it's back in your hand. Okay, so if you're going to do some pole walking or pole bounding tomorrow, if you just kind of get out there and try it, it doesn't really matter what your technique is, it's great that you're out there trying. If you wanted to get a little more focus on the technique. A couple things to consider is when you're walking, and probably more so when you're walking, is that it's kind of one step per pole. You know, if you can make your poling go a lot slower than your steps, so you can take like a couple steps per pole. But to get that good arm action, it's taking one pole per step, so your hands are matching your feet. That gets your arms really moving, so you get a little bit of cardiovascular work up in your upper body. Another element is, again, when you're pulling off, if you're walking, normally your arms don't really contribute to your forward motion. But when you're walking with the pole, you can put some muscle into every push off. And when you put that muscle in there, it helps start strengthen those triceps that we worked on a little bit yesterday. Another element, if you're going to do pole bounding, is that you might need to take off your poles. If you're going to do a little bit of running, you can run with your poles and just hang on to them like this as you run. So it's pretty hard to run and do it's hard to do pole walking while you're running. So you might run like this to get to a spot where you can do some pole bounding. Or you might decide to hiking to get to a spot to do some bounding. Now, when you get to an area that you're doing bounding, the tips that most of you have on your skis really don't work that well on pavement or concrete. In fact, the pavement and concrete can kind of wear them out if you don't have specialized carbide tips. So I would recommend, if you're going to do bounding, to find a place that is grass or some kind of a soft surface. Bounding is essentially, again, I don't want to poke holes in my kitchen floor, but I'll just shoot across the screen here. You might not really see much, but it's going to be one large footstep like this. It's just kind of a big deer-like step, and you do a nice push off with the opposite hand on the pole as you take that large step. Now, you might do that bounding for about 50 meters and then take a little break. It's really, kind of getting a good leap off the feet, really pushing with that arm and really using that arm to get some exercise, and that is great for that leap. You can do that on a flat surface. Again, for about 50 meters is great. And maybe you do that 2 to 4 times as repetitions, and then you could pole hike back home, or you could jog home with the poles in your hands. To add a little element of difficulty is you could do some pole bounding up a hill. Doesn't have to be a real steep hill. In fact, probably a more gradual hill is better. Again, you could look at 50 meters or so, or up as in one interval, up a grade of some sort, doing that same pole bounding motion. Again, the point here isn't that we're going to learn how to do double poling. We're going to get on snow and be perfect double polers or perfect with our poling. The point is to get some fitness in your upper body, get the cardiovascular development, get the blood flowing through your arms, get your arms used to carrying that weight of the pole, and to also get some tricep development with some strengthening. Okay, so good luck with your poling tomorrow. And I tell you, it's one of probably the best ways that you can get fit for skiing without roller skiing or without skis and snow. Okay, thank you.